Was the supernova of 1054 a GRB? I want to present this paper coming from an idea of Professor Ruffini in the section of historical supernovae from an historical point of view. The history of the last 10 days showed the interest on this paper after the publication on June 25. We reached a rate of 600 readings per day, so it is a rather interesting quantity of people. I received some feeling. The adjectives are fun, interesting, intriguing. So thanks to the people who send comments, also remarks, expression of not agreement in this revolutionary hypothesis, but also thanks for the interest shown in this paper. This is Professor Ruffini. This month, the last month, working at this paper, I was doing the photo. I put the photo here to remember to me that the idea of the Crab Nebula as gamma ray burst is his own idea. I contributed by examining the historical sources and discussing them with him. And among the historical sources there is his words. There are his words about a black hole moving here and there in the nebula that I heard from him since many years ago. So the idea of this phenomenon is very old, and the testimony is also this poster, which is about 20 years old, and it is in the ICRANET Center in Pescara, remembering some meeting and some publications about Fermi and astrophysics, but in connection with China, and the account of the nebula progenitor is in this small rectangle enlarged here from with another specific photo that I made in the ICRANET Center. So this is also a representative of the historical background of what we see with the Hubble Space Telescope, in this case, the so-called supernova remnant, called also Crab Nebula, since the first observations made, which were not the first, but with the biggest telescope at this time, by Lord Rosse, with the Earl of Ross, with 1.8 meters reflecting telescope, the Earl of Parsonstown, Lord Ross, who had the biggest telescope at this time, and he could see an idea of this structure that obviously Hubble Space Telescope could resolve from space in a totally different and better manner. So in this account written in ancient Chinese, this is one of the accounts of the observations of the crab progenitor. There are therefore European chronicles and Chinese chronicles. The Chinese one are considered more professionals. even after the tradition of the brothers E and O beheaded by the emperor because they did not forecast correctly a solar eclipse. This legend is for understanding the importance of their work. They were part of the court of the emperor, the dignitaries of the emperor, and so their job was extremely important and it had to be done very carefully. So the critics that Richard Stevenson and his colleague brings to the European sources is their about 1054 supernova is their inaccuracy in terms of dates and in the description of occurrences. In terms of dates, they say, Stevenson and Green, the eclipses were absolutely precise. For example, this is an account of an eclipse reported in the catalog of Marek Zawilski of 2 August 1133, which lasted 4.7 minutes of totality. It was observed in Austria, and there is the Latin account and the translation. About midday there was an eclipse that is the effect of the sun so great that stars appeared in the darkness through the whole earth for 1 hour. Apparentibus stellis is the evidence that the eclipse was total because the stars were visible in daytime. So the 4 None Augusti, the 4 days before the None of August, is precisely the date of the eclipse. So the question is why the accounts of the supernova were so wrong. Probably, Stevenson says, they were fantastic or just visionary, related only to religious aspects and so on. A famous debate some 30 years ago was conducted also by Bradley Schaffer regarding the coins of Emperor Constantinus IX, the Monomachus, which means the single combator. In this, and only this coin, the Christ is in one side, in the back side, and in the fore side there is the emperor with the star. So, since in the other coins there is no this star, the idea was that this star was representing the supernova. Another coin, and there are many others in the archaeology, always from Constantinople, includes again the star, and it is for Alexius Comnenus I, which is like 34 years after the supernova. Then it cannot be again the symbol of of an astronomical phenomenon as the previous coin. So the quotation of that coin was very, very high, but the presumed correspondence with the supernova is completely doubtful, but why not? In any case, there are other chronicles, more explicit, that have been studied by several scholars. I want to quote the last one, Vito Francesco Polcaro, that I met in my career. So I know that he was involved in historical studies, history of astronomy, orientation of building, and so on. This paper, published in 2006, is a paper which goes slightly counter-current, because he brought again in evidence the observation in Europe, saying, okay, the chronology may be strange, but let's put attention to the phenomena. The Church of St. Peter in Oldenburg, in the Chronicle Aldelburgensis, there is written that in the day 18th before the 1st of May, a Monday around midday, all over the world there appear two men, a circle in the sky of extraordinary brightness, which lasted about half an hour. There is immediately a supernatural explanation. Perhaps the Lord wished to say that he, the Pope Leo XIII, Leo the Ninth, was worthy to receive a crown in heaven between those who love him. So it is a canonization, and supernatural canonization of this Pope. But the problem is that the Pope was dead 11 of April and not 19 of April, not 11. This is the image of the Pope as in St. Paul outside the walls in Rome, in the Basilica of St. Paul, the one with all the popes. And in the book named the Obitu Leonis, about the death of Leo, written by the deacon Libuinus, as along a path strewn with shining garments and lit by innumerable brilliant lamps, the ascension of his soul was in a brilliant orb with such shining garments and innumerable brilliant lamps. I saw in this world much beyond the canonization of the Pope. I saw an effect of a air shower after an intense gamma ray radiation coming from heavens. Both the phenomena are at noon. So in Belgium around midday, and in Rome as well. The date is wrong. The explanation is necessarily the best one available at that time, so supernatural. It is not strange that in Rome they could think in these manners. A chronology of the accounts available here and there in Europe and in China has been computed by Collins et al. In 1999, and you can see here the European chronicles in the month of April, Chinese chronicles in the month of May, and also between May and June there are some Japanese chronicles, and again the Vulgata of the Chinese supernova, the July 4th account, which comes from the Sung Hui Yao account. But there is another one in July 27. This is the 23 days of visibility in daytime. Another account, which has been dated either in 1055 or 1054, is the diary of the physician Ibn Butlan, which means the son of Butlan, a physician working at this time in Constantinople. And the same account of July 4 says that on April 17 of 1056, the star was no more visible. So, as we can see from this list and from other lists that can be computed after reading all the sources, the choice of this particular chronology from July 4 to April 17, 1056 is one of the possible choices, and Joseph Shklovsky included the observation of Japan because the supernova of type 2 could have a peak, and it was seen before the peak in Japan and after the peak in China, but in general it's strange that Chinese did not see what Japanese saw. Then not all the Eastern sources are absolutely exempt of problems. There is another source, the Irish one, here for the feast of St. George, with fiery pillar sown in the horizon. So the fiery pillars have been sown after a boreal aurora, northern lights, observed also here in Pescara last month of May. There were 3 moving pillars, and so it could have been simply an aurora, the one mentioned in Ireland. So the conflicts of Chinese are listed here, and there can be also more conflicts. The situation is not very different from the European one about the problem of transcriptions that generally are more than 1 century after the event. So the Sun Yao account is written in 1200, well after the event. This drawing has been done the day after the aurora, observed by me in front of the beach of Pescara. So the importance of testimony in time is obviously crucial for this kind of things. Moreover, the date has been changed, probably because the emperors had to be preserved by bad omens coming from heavens, because the work of these astronomers was to show every news coming from the heads and interpreting it. The problem of the confusion limit in a crowded stellar field is to be taken into account when we deal with the last day of visibility of the star. This is the field of the stars nearby. So the difficulty was similar to this one. Distinguish this star from this one. M1 is the name, the current name of the Crab Nebula, the first one in the catalog of Charles Messier. Our 3rd of July chronology is presented in the paper that you had the possibility to see. This is the standard chronology for the Chinese observations, but the really first appearance, the burst, occurred 12 or 13 hours before, around 11 universal time of the day, 3 of July, when the crab was below the horizon in China. All the energy was released in the first 30 minutes for the damaging energy, the one producing also plaques for skin burns. For the American Indians settled in an agricultural society, so very attentive to celestial phenomena, it is very reliable that this phenomenon occurred in twilight. So they were sleeping and the crab exploded at an altitude of 14 degrees, so 76 from the zenith. 14 degrees is a good air mass thickness to protect the population from the skin burns, but in any case the phenomenon was sudden and the luminosity woke up the Indians like 2 hours before the sunrise. These are White Mesa and Penasco Blanco, 2 places where New Mexico and Arizona, where the Indians were settled. In Constantinople, the zenithal altitude distance is 48 degrees, 42 of altitude, and is like the sun at the equinox. And Ibn Batlan said, one of the well-known epidemics of our time is that which occurred when the spectacular star appeared in Gemini in the year 446 after the Hegira. In Gemini is the position in terms of ecliptic coordinate. So the constellation was the Taurus, but the position according to the ecliptic coordinate was Gemini, grade 11. The penetration of the radiation in the atmosphere is up to 8 kilometers of watt, according to this publication of 1968, Sun, Weather and Climate with John Herman and Richard Goldberg, published first in the NASA reports in 1978 and after in 1985 in the Dover edition. The problem is in the first 30 minutes the energy was enormous, and even if the penetration of a 1000 MeV particle was up to 8 kilometers, at 8 kilometers of quote, the quantity of such energetic radiation was so big that something arrived to the ground. The studies on security from gamma ray burst reported in the paper, in our paper, say stay 15 kiloparsec from a gamma ray burst if you want to preserve the life. On July 3rd at noon, people were reliably outside, and then their skin was burned. That's the starting point of the epidemics. As a conclusion and perspective, we say that we brought again attention to the European and American possible accounts of the 1054 events, and even if there are models well established for this, for the progenitor of the Crab Nebula, the observation made in Europe, a brilliant orb in daytime, and the ones depicted by American Indians, may be fit by gamma ray burst explosions. Moreover, the other starting point was the considerations that the present X-ray and visible radiation, the megaelectron volt and gigaelectron volt radiation coming from the crab can be obtained by extrapolating the GRB 1901-14C for 970 years. And this is the one of the strongest arguments for the GRB hypothesis of crab origin. Obviously, the quality of the Chinese observations is not object of our criticism, but the proposal of 3rd of July Chronicle makes the crab below the horizon at the moment of the explosion for the Chinese. And then also they were preserved by the skin burns and the consequent epidemics or catastrophe from the Greek word, including the word aster, which means star. So something came down from the star, catastrophe. Katabatic wind is the wind going down, the catastrophe is something going down from the stars. And the epidemic exploded in the countries where the explosion of the crab was at its zenith. Obviously, it's not the zenith, but it is the meridian, the highest position in the sky of the day, where the air mass was the minimum one. There are need of further studies, but this hypothesis is really suggestive and can be completed by examining the binary-driven hypernova model of gamma ray bursts that the school of Professor Ruffini is presenting and proposing and discussing since many years to now. Thank you for your attention.